Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that even I have been guilty of in the past. So when I make these statements, I don't want people to think that I'm being preachy. I might sound a bit like a dick. I might sound like I'm callous or uncaring when I say certain things, but I want you to understand I'm also speaking from my own past experiences, my experiences dealing with other lifters, observations about people getting too minimalist in their training and not training their weak links, and then ending up, number one, either weak, or number two, strong, but still having major weak links that make them get hurt all the time. Right? They get hurt all the time. And I have friends like this. I have friends who are close to 600 squatters, raw squatters without wraps, who get hurt all the time. Let me ask you a question. What do you think they do to build their squat? They just squat. They squat and they do some hip hinging. And that can work. You can get a pretty strong squat that way. How often do you think this person has hip or knee problems, though? Yeah, to the point where they have to get cortisone injections and stuff in their knee. A couple times a year. So let's talk about some of this, because when we talk about your weak links, no, I don't mean your biceps, because every time we talk about weak link training, kids, dumbass kids, right? Dumbass kids who don't know that training involves anything more than looking good in the mirror, they think it's their biceps. And hey, your biceps might be a weak link. There are points in your training where a weak bicep or bicep tendons may predispose you to injury, or at least not the best back development, because biceps are heavily used in a lot of your back exercises. So I'm not even saying there isn't a place for bicep work. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm not talking about what you perceive as the muscles you see in the mirror that are weak, because usually you guys can only see the front half of your body anyways. You can't see 60% of the muscle mass on your body in a mirror. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about weak links in the kinetic chain. Okay, I can give you guys some perfect examples. If you've been doing shoulder stance or narrower squatting your entire training career, this is how you've been training the last 3 years, right? Maybe if you do any other leg work, it's some medium stance, narrow stance squatting. You might squat 400 pounds, but that's not strong. And you'd be a hell of a lot stronger if you actually developed musculature correctly, okay? Like a 400-pound Olympic squat is not difficult to achieve, and it's not rare. Okay? It's not rare among people who actually squat and train the squat. The only reason a lift like that might seem rare in commercial gyms is because they just don't train their legs. You go to any athletic gym around the world where it's athletes, even high school athletes, 400 squats not that impressive. It's pretty common to Olympic squat 400 pounds. Now, a 600-pound Olympic squat's pretty impressive. Plenty. 400 is normal. 400 is normal in any gym where people squat regularly. And I hate to burst people's bubble with that, but that's not strong. That's why I say that that's a normal strength standard to strive for, is a non-strength specialty. That's why it's part of one of my big 5 strength standards. That's why it's part of it. Because it's not that hard to achieve. Okay. You've done that, and you've done nothing but hip hinging for your hamstrings. Do you think that your lower body is fully developed and you don't have major weak links? I promise you, you have weak links. And I promise you, you are predisposed to injury in a lot of situations. What do I mean predisposed to injury? Well, when lifting. How about when doing sports type activities? Okay. And those are fine exercises. Don't get me wrong. I love conventional deadlifting. I love narrow stance, hip hinging. But I want you to think that through. If your lower body training has consisted entirely of shoulder width or closer squatting, maybe conventional deadlifts and Romanian deadlifts, your lower body is not fully developed, and you are predisposed to injuries on a playing field, when you pivot on a foot, possibly sprinting, jumping, any sort of contact sport. Right? You're not balanced, and you're going to be predisposed to things like hamstring tears, Okay, why? Well, for number one, you haven't fully developed all heads of the hamstring. Right? We do need some knee flexion occurring to fully work all aspects of the hamstring. I'm not saying it needs to be a major priority, but it needs to be some in there. What about that stance width? What about that stance width? Well, I promise you, you have weak adductors. Probably abductors too. But you have weak adductors. There's no way, if all of your training is done bilaterally, with your shoulders being the maximum width that you take your foot stance, if this is how you do the majority or all of your training, I promise you, you have weak muscles in your leg that are predisposing you to injury. You need to fix those. You are not balanced, and that's probably why you only squat 400 pounds. Now, if you're a woman, that's good. But if you're a grown man who thinks that they're strong, that's you're behind the curve, and that's the reality. And it is because you haven't trained everything correctly. What do we mean upper body? So let's give you guys some textbook examples. Let's say you've done lots of pull-ups and chin-ups, which are a good exercise, right? I think the majority of us out there will say, you know, if you get really strong at weighted pull-ups and chin-ups, you probably got a decently strong upper body. Probably have a decently strong middle back. You probably have a piss poor, terrible, garbage upper back that's at noob level, and you're going to hurt yourself. But you probably have a pretty strong middle back. What do you mean middle back? Your lats. You know, your lats make up less than half of the muscle of your back. Do you really think anything else gets worked completely in your back besides the lats on those moves? No. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you want a wide back, getting really good at pull-ups and chin-ups, particularly if you can rep out weight. Like if you can hang a 45-pound plate on either one and just rep it out, you probably have pretty damn good lats. You probably have decent biceps too. Okay, I'm not saying you're going to have the biggest biceps or bodybuilder biceps, but I promise you, you probably have pretty decent biceps, and you probably have really good lats. Okay, now, anyone disagree with that? I can tell you what's going to suck if that's all you've been doing. I promise you that your infraspinous, your rear delts, your mid traps, your upper traps, your erectors are all weak. I promise you your traps, rear delts, and infraspinous are weak. I promise you that. What are your odds of hurting your shoulders doing stuff? Right? I'll ask you a question. What do you think your odds of hurting your shoulders are in that case? If that is what you've used to develop your back has major weak links in it because of that. You really should, in a perfect world, get decently strong at vertical pulls and horizontal pulls, okay? And I'll be honest, when it comes to injury prevention in the back, rowing is way more valuable than pull-ups. And I like pull-ups, right? Don't get me wrong, I am someone who is pro pull-up, am I not? They're not giving you guys strength standards on the pull-up and the chin-up. I have. Do you really think that's going to build the proper base for your back by itself? No. You're going to be predisposed to injury. You're going to have a higher risk of injury, of shoulder injuries when doing various pressing, because you haven't fully developed, particularly that upper back area. It's going to be underdeveloped. And I get plenty of lifters who can't squat, bench, or deadlift shit, who are good at pull-ups. For all it's done them, they're good at pull-ups. Which, hey, is good. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good situation to have. But by itself, if that's the entirety of what you've done, or the biggest focus of your back training, you've got some weak links in the rest of your back, and you're going to be predisposed to injury, and you're probably going to suck at certain lifts. You're going to suck at big lifts. You're still going to end up being weak because you don't have the proper support musculature up there to stabilize your shoulders. And you need to fix that. You're predisposed to injury, and you're possibly going to be a lot weaker than you could be. These are examples. I mean, we could go through, and there could be examples for the rest of your upper body, for your pressing muscles and other stuff. I mean, those things exist. we could create a case where weak biceps could actually predispose you to certain issues, no doubt. But I gave you guys some of the big examples because it's ones that guys don't think of, who think that they train because they're good at chin-ups and they're good at the Olympic squat. They think that they're strong and well-developed. They have massive weak links. They're strong at a couple of things. They're not strong overall. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.